Welcome to Fluido Moments, our podcast series where we will talk about what's it like to be a Fluidian, what we do every day, and what our culture is all about. This is your backstage pass to all things Fluido. So, welcome to Fluido Moments, Zsolt. Did I say your name correctly? Yes.
That is correct, Paulina. Thank you for saying it
yes.
correctly.
But you're used to Finnish people pronouncing it a little bit wrong, aren't you? So.
Well, I heard all sorts of pronunciations like slot and salt and pepper, so I'm used to all of this and not going to get hurt by that.
Okay, good to know. But we've been working for a long time together, so I would think that I could already pronounce your name. So a very warm welcome to our Fluido Moment podcast. Obviously I know who you are and you know who I am, but for the benefit of our listeners, maybe we'll do a little introduction of ourselves. So my name, Pauliina Löyttö, Head of People and Culture, and I'm right now sitting in Helsinki, Finland. It's Corona time, so I'm at home, and you're sitting in Munich or near Munich. I'll let you tell your story in a moment. I have some notes here, so I'm going to be looking on the side because of that, but no other reason. But maybe if you could tell us your story. Who are you? What's your background and how you came to Fluido and the works. So, anything you want to tell me?
Yeah, thank you for the warm welcome, Paulina. And yes, we indeed know each other, quite well by now. And like you pronounced my name correctly, I'm Zsolt. That's a Hungarian name. I come from Hungary originally. And basically, I'm working now out of my home office because of Corona times. That's in Landsberg. I'm like a really beautiful city, just about 50 kilometers west of Munich. And I'm heading Fluido Germany as a country manager and region head for the DACH region. And my background with the company is now about a year and a half. But as many people know, I happen to know Fluido, not since a year and a half, but our history goes back, quite far in time.
Tell me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to work with F-Secure, a leading cybersecurity vendor in the global marketplace. And I had different roles in that company. And one of those, which I actually held for like 4.5 years, was managing the global Salesforce rollout and business transformation. And I remember very well when we did basically the partner selection for the rollout. So we separated first the CRM vendor selection and then the implementation partner selection. And I had the privilege to select Fluido as the partner for the implementation. And I was heading the program in the company. And Risto Vuorjoki, current head of services at Fluido, was my partner in crime, so to say, in the implementation. So we worked quite closely together for about 4 years. So that's my first exposure to Fluido.
Yeah, that was a few years back. And then I kind of remember, but how was it? Did you meet our CEO at Dreamforce? How did it go that you ended up then with us?
That's right. So I think then after I left F-Secure, I had different positions, worked also as a freelancer in the digital marketing space, quite exciting times. And then while I was working for another employer, I was visiting Dreamforce and quite accidentally, I bumped into Kai and the Fluido team. And then, Kai had some memories back then and he sort of explained quite in brief terms what are the current plans of Fluido? And he shared some of the exciting news that there would be an acquisition happening from Infosys, which opens new opportunities for Fluido, meaning that Fluido would enter the German marketplace, which was not possible before. And even though we were looking for collaboration opportunities back then, myself and Fluido, because I'm based in Germany and Fluido was just not active, it was just not possible. And this acquisition just opened, let's say, new doors and opportunities for potential collaboration.
Yeah. So exactly. It was at exactly that time when we were acquired by Infosys and started working with them. And like you said, new opportunities, not only for the company to expand to, for example, Germany, but also for individuals and so forth. So let's talk about our relationship with Infosys now. It's been, how long has it been now exactly? I actually even forget. Year and a half, right?
It's probably 20 months or so, yeah, already.
Yeah. So time really flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? So Zsolt, you started with Infosys straight away. Working with Infosys, I have the history of being Fluido first, small company, very few people, and then growing into a larger company and then being acquired by Infosys and starting a new way of working. But you've worked with Infosys from the very beginning. So tell me a little bit about what's it like to work with Infosys? What's, how do they see us? How does the collaboration go from your point of view?
Yeah, and a good question. So when this got started, it also hit my eyes right up front that Fluido is a relatively small company, about 350 plus people. And then here we go, there's this big giant corporate of Infosys of 250,000 people. So how is this going to work out in the European marketplace, both from culture point of view and also from business collaboration point of view? Yeah, and being part of Infosys has been very interesting for me for the beginning because I've seen that they are a very honest company. They started their entire operations out of India. So they have never been promising offshore as an alternative, but this was, the standard practice of their business. And having said that, that also meant that the way they work is that they have a pretty lean operations in the respective country where they work. At the same time, they are extremely strong. That means they've got several thousands of people in the Salesforce space, very much focused on technology, consulting, integration services, and development. And that creates a very strong base for them to have a strong footprint in the global marketplace. Yet, if you look at Germany, which is a new market for Fluido as such, it's fairly obvious that most of the German industry leaders, they expect a very strong local presence. Not only that, often they expect that you speak the local language, and then you are just simply there in the proximity. So already just this particular fact, created a pretty good foundation for matching skills and competencies between the two parties like Fluido and Infosys. But that got even further deepened by the understanding that Fluido is very strong in the business consulting and solution consulting area. And what I've personally seen in my career is that there are so many companies out there who are struggling to set a very clear roadmap where they want to go with Salesforce. How do they want to get the most value out of Salesforce by connecting different clouds? And then they need strategic guidance and thought leadership from Fluido to make it happen. And that complements very well the strong offshore and onshore capabilities of Infosys when it comes to technology consulting. So that has become very apparent when we started working together on the value proposition of the two companies, that there's a pretty good match from a business point of view.
Yeah. So then when we're asking, why did Infosys acquire Fluido, then that's your answer exactly, that we complement quite well what they already have.
Correct. And specifically about the German marketplace or in the Germany, Austrian, Switzerland marketplace, this region, it's also extremely good that Infosys have a very solid footprint in this market already. So there's about 500 million euro plus annual revenue that Infosys is gaining by working together with major corporates in the German marketplace, be it Daimler or be it Adidas and some other lighthouse accounts, not all in the Salesforce space, but as they have a very diverse technology services portfolio, that also opens up opportunities for Salesforce-related services to be offered to the same client pool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always get asked the same question, how how are we working with Infosys, and how did things change, going from a relatively small company, headcount-wise, and then now suddenly being part of a bigger organization. And I answer exactly what you just said. So we complement each other nicely. And what I really value personally is all of the opportunities that we are able to have access to now, whether it's larger projects or different kinds of projects or international projects or all sorts of all sorts of opportunities that maybe were not possible before. And some of our people have taken advantage of that. All right. So we've had one person move from Finland to Germany. I think when we said that we're opening an office in Germany, it was one of our breakfast meetings that we have. I think she came down afterwards and just said, I want to move. I want to go to Munich. So things like that. Wouldn't you agree? The opportunities that our people have are now like amazing in a way.
Yeah, I think so too. And, not just the pragmatic example that you referred to supports it, but altogether, especially, in these Corona times, it has become very apparent that most of the work needs to be done remotely. And as long as we talk about remote work, the location doesn't really matter, right? So that also means that when it comes to project deliveries, we are able to tap into skills available in the Nordic region. So we are regularly having people from Finland or from Sweden or from Norway or from Denmark contributing to our projects. But equally so, I just, come off from an email correspondence with one of my marketing cloud colleagues that he's just going to help out in a Finnish project as part in his part-time, practically. So that's just, the collaboration within Fluido as such, but the same very much applies to Infosys as well, because it opens up new opportunities for the combined companies in offering services which may not have been on the radar so far. So an example could be like campaign as a service, where we provide marketing cloud campaign configuration, management, and analytics for our companies, for business partners. And then we do this together with Infosys. Part of the work when it comes to configuration work and development happening in Bangalore or Mysore, depending on where our people from Infosys are sitting, while the actual client relationship and then the thought leadership part happens with the client here in Germany, practically. So it's a very balanced and, in my view, well-working collaboration.
Yeah. And we need to come back to Mysore because we've both been there. That was a cool thing. But before we go there, so one of the questions I always get asked also is, how do you work together? What's the, there's a project or a deal that, what kind of things do we do together? And I don't do project work anymore as much as at all as I used to. And even then there were smaller projects. But let's say a typical project where you're working together with Infosys, how does that work out for you guys, or how does it go?
Good, interesting question. And
it's a tough one a little bit because every project is different. It's a tough one,
right? Because I think it's very important to see that this is an evolution. Any acquisition or merger takes quite some time to happen from culture integration point of view, from ways of working, And I think we started off originally with quite some difficulties around, the collaboration, because the two companies are on two totally different communication platforms. And then that makes collaboration often difficult. And we also have to adapt to the different working style, of the Infosys colleagues. Let me give you an example. Probably within Fluido, the way it would happen is that we organize a meeting and then we do all the preparations for the meeting. And then we have a 30-minute alignment, and then we continue totally separately. And then we can reconvene at a later stage to see, how far we got. In the Infosys working culture, it's slightly different. So when we get a meeting organized, that often is much longer because the actual editing of the content that, let's say, multiple collaborators are developing happens on the spot, on the line. Okay. And that was, quite new to us. I wouldn't part with one or the other. Fluido had one ways of working, Infosys another ways of working. And therefore, I think project by project, we always utilize the combination of both. There are moments when, one is more applicable than the other. And then there are moments when it's just the other way around. So that's the collaboration part. In terms of the roles and responsibilities, that's also, quite a tough one at times. Yeah, indeed, because traditionally, when we talk about, Fluido has been acquiring clients themselves, which meant that we have been owning the customer relationship. And Infosys being a market leader in Europe and in the Central European area, that means that they've got their own account teams who assume and claim ownership for the very same customer pool. And especially in those cases where we talk about the large corporate enterprise in the German market, which is had business with Infosys in the past, there's a legitimate ownership claim, coming from the sales teams from Infosys side. So we need to make sure that we are able to collaborate in a way that we can do our own sales part and they can do their own sales part, and we still work hand in hand. So it takes a lot of courage from both ends, basically, to give in to the other party and work as a collaborative team. And I think it's fair to say that it has gone through a major evolution. We are not at the end of the road yet, but it's happening. And that's, good to see these improvements.
Yeah, no, but what I've heard is that, especially, you guys, you're working on your customers and projects that, as you said, there's an evolution, but you're already doing really well and getting to know the people and working together and finding the way to work together in these situations. So, of course, when two companies come together, there's two different ways of doing things. So,
I personally see this as a major opportunity for Fluido as well, because we can work with so large clients, which we did not necessarily have in our portfolio before.
True.
So this is a great opportunity to step out, basically, of the comfort zone and do bigger things, larger things, more complex implementations, or geographically more dispersed implementations. And at the same time, we also have to learn, and we have already been learning this, how to collaborate really with offshore teams together, which is, again, for many companies, it remains only a promise to the customers. However, we make it happen. And by being very close as Fluido to customers, so having the proximity, that creates the confidence for our customers that we are providing this thought leadership and the strategic guidance, and we are also providing the same guidance to our internal teams, be it in the Nordics, or be it in Germany, or be it offshore from Infosys.
Yeah.
And therefore, the clients don't have to make their full plans available on day one, as it would normally happen with an offshore model, but they can just, provide their strategic aspirations, and we can help translate that into a roadmap, and we can, be there from day one and navigate the entire implementation and steer those teams which are focused on technology.
That's true. Yeah. And now going back, to kind of skip a little bit without any segue, but you did mention Mysore, and we've both been there. But something that Infosys does extremely well is kind of getting people up to par with this work that you've just described. And Mysore obviously came to my thought in relation to that, and now everybody listening is thinking, well, what is this Mysore? Quick, tell me. So. We have both had the privilege to be invited to see Infosys roots in a way, going to Bangalore and Mysore. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think it's been fantastic and exciting experience to be in Bangalore and in Mysore as well, and having looked at both campuses. And I think that statement that a couple of people told me before is like very valid, that if you have not been to Infosys in India, to any of these campuses, you don't know too much about the company just yet, right? Because what I experienced there was just like enthusiasm, great spirit, and then extreme strong focus on knowledge management and training and enablement of people.
Yeah.
So if you think about, what sort of service centers they build with some of their customers, where they practically have like an entire team working with a major customer, be it in Australia or in New Zealand, and they are collaborating on constant video stream. Or if I consider, what happened in Mysore, that fantastic campus where I think something like 4,000 students are
It was amazing.
learning.
It was amazing campus. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, architecture is also very, very impressive. It's very well organized, clean, beautiful. So it's also fair to say it's quite in contrast with the other parts of India. So you see that students are extremely focused on getting on a career path that leads them to Infosys, and being part of this community is actually a fantastic chance and opportunity for people to grow not just their career, but also grow in terms of prosperity and, just have a very European way normal life in India.
Yeah, and I remember, there's groups of freshers, people straight out of school or just starting from scratch, coming in, getting this amazing experience, and then getting work straight away after gaining all the knowledge. Can you imagine taking the masses of people and making that happen in such a smooth, lean way as we saw? It was really. I don't think we could do that. I'm not sure if I knew.
I don't know. I have not seen in any other company, something like this on this scale. And it was very impressive because practically it personally gave me the confidence that whenever we get into a large enterprise project, which would involve potentially multiple hundreds of developers and people in India, then this indeed works, right? And then it's hard to believe this, by not being part of it every day. But when you hear it the first time, then you're skeptic about it. But then you see it happening there, live, face to face, and how the entire preparation for this is done just by training and enabling students and then converting them into engineers, first juniors and then the seniors. Then you become a believer that this really indeed works.
Yeah.
So it has been I would say, a life changer for me, at least in terms of understanding how Fluido and Infosys would work together.
Yeah. And then what I always remember, we get to tap into that a little bit with the Lex system. So this online, training platform. There's so much in there our people are able to have a look at, and I think we've talked about it in some other podcasts as well. But I don't know, on your visit, did you get to see where they actually record those training sessions for Lex?
Not the recording itself, but I had the privilege to meet the actual program lead and owner of Lex in Infosys. And for those of you who don't know what this is about, this learning exchange platform, and Infosys practically built it for own internal use first, where they are putting all sorts of content in digital form available online and offline for the audience to digest and to use for learning. But there's also a very strong social collaboration, built on top of this, where, you can form cohorts where people can learn together, share experiences, and then practically, whatever your target is on a technology career path, be it a Java developer or be it a Salesforce technical expert, you've got curricula that you can follow, and there's online support that will, navigate you further on the track. And you can just certify, very well on just on the platform itself. And this has been so successful for Infosys, training people that they have been approached by multiple enterprises around the globe because they just wanted to have the same platform, not just the platform, but of course the content as well. Because who would not want to have, let's say, a knowledge management platform with all the great content if you want to train your own people?
Yeah, it is great. And, from specifics, like you said, Java developer to soft skills, everything that you can possibly think about. So it's.
I think it's only down to you as an individual, how much you make out of this. Yeah. And one more thing that perhaps I have to mention about this is that when I talk to the program lead, just the passion itself, that came across. I mean, that was already like captivating, because you don't do these things without passion. Otherwise, it's just not going to, be the same content and quality. And that was just, great to have this sort of hospitality and passion in action.
Maybe that's the one thing that we have in common with Infosys is exactly that passion. We have passion at Fluido, and then you can see the passion. Not only, you referred to it in relation to this Lex or the learning platform, but you can see it in other things as well. So there's a passion for what we do in both companies, and then we come together. The passion kind of mixes in a nice way. Or am I being too poetic now?
I don't think so. You didn't ask this question, and we haven't talked about this. Like, why did I join Fluido? And even I remember, back then when I worked at F-Secure, I was a bit envious, basically, of this Fluido culture. Of course, I only had like a snapshot of this, by having Risto and Terhi and Aki and some of other colleagues, basically, working in our premises. But there was this, like, feeling of belonging and, being related to something just like the unspoken. And that was just still somehow tangible, yeah. And what characterized, this entire team that I worked with back then was passion, passion to make it happen. Because I think it's easy to relate yourself to the Salesforce message and then what they bring to the market. And then if you are passionate about this value proposition, then as long as you want to make something better with this, like, improve the customer's operations or make their business better, then you just somehow get this internal drive and passion that let's just make it happen, because it's just so great to see, how results are turning into tangible results.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we didn't talk about that. Why you came to Fluido, and I hear that very often from customers, kind of the Fluido culture and so forth. So that brings me then to my last question. Already, time sure flies. So my last question is, and I've asked this of everyone, is what is your Fluido moment?
Yeah, the Fluido moment, right? I think, there are different answers to this question. I would say, like, every day, every single moment is a Fluido moment, since I've been working with Fluido. But when I think about this a little bit, longer, I would say that the true Fluido moment was when I just entered the lobby at the company day last year in Berlin.
Yeah.
And it's not
I know
about,
where you're going.
It's not about, the funny costumes basically that people are wearing, as a tradition, in our company by getting themselves prepared for the evening activity. But it's much more about this buzz, basically, that you could just, grasp simply and immerse yourself into in the lobby. And when you see people like, so passionate about, meeting one another, everybody greets the other, and everybody's totally relaxed. Yeah. So there's no feeling of this, like, well, we are now having a corporate culture that is dictated by someone who just figured this out. It just happens and everybody just immerses into the moment. And I felt, really, truly that, okay, I just arrived home, And another, on top of this practically, and that was really like, making my day, is that I remember this very well, that we invited 2 or 4 new colleagues into this particular event, even prior to them entering the company a couple of days before, because we wanted them to be part of this fun and be part of the family. And one of them had a birthday on that. And I think about this 350 people were all cheering up and greeting his birthday and while he was getting a bottle of champagne. And just these, little moments that the company is thinking of employees, irrespective of where you sit. I mean, that's just, so much of a Fluido moment,
Yeah, it is about people, especially our company. Not because, I want to say it, but people is what we have. People is who's doing the work. People is who has the skills. People is everything. So why not take care and get to know everyone? So yeah, it's good. It's a nice Fluido moment.
It is a nice Fluido moment, and it's also true, what you said about the people who make this happen, right? And there's no better feedback than what you can get from a customer when they say like, "Hey, you are my Salesforce team," because you just made this happen. And it happened already twice to me, since I've been with the company. And that's just fantastic, to experience, being part of the team.
It is, yeah. It's, it's fun to do stuff on your own, and it's fun to be the expert, but it's so much more fun to be part of a team and to be a part of a team of experts and to work together and grow together. So, yeah, that's a good point. So it is that moment where we have to say that time is up, but it's been a real pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much, Zsolt, for taking the time to join me and to tell our listeners about, what's it like to work with Infosys and also your Fluido moment. I know you're extremely busy, so very highly appreciated that you took a moment with me. And the last thing I want to remind everyone, we have the website where you also, Zsolt, you can go and listen to this episode and others as well, fluidomoments.com. So you can see everything that we've recorded and published up until now. Without further ado, thank you one more time. How many times has, 5 times thank you, but I know it's always a big kind of a thing.
Yeah, thank you, Paulina, for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure, talking to you as always.
As always, you too. All right, thank you. I will see you in a meeting very soon, I think.
Indeed. Ciao.
Yes. All right, bye.